Module 12, Working with Tables. In Module 12, we'll be sorting a table of records, filtering a table of records, subtotaling a table of records, some exercises and their solutions, and a final summary. So why use tables? Tables allow the sorting and filtering functions to be used more effectively than just with a worksheet. Data within tables can be rearranged to pose different questions, and sorting can tidy the data in a spreadsheet efficiently. Filtering data in a table can proficiently extract specific data from it, and subtotaling can distill data down for pinpoint precision. So to get started, we have a simple worksheet here with a range of different data series. Our title, Blue Lake Services, our employees' names, their dates of birth, their employee number, their start dates, their hourly rate of pay, and the contract type. As you can see, I've applied some conditional formatting to two of our columns, just to make things more visual when we apply our sorts or filters. To apply any conditional formatting, select the data range you need, go up to Conditional Formatting in the Home ribbon, and in my case I've used the data bars with different gradient fills. If we look at our date of birth conditional formatting, for example, you can see that the further back the date, the further back our gradient fill. So the most recent date, 1995, is completely filled within the cell. We'll be covering more about conditional formatting in the next module. There are two methods to create tables in Excel. The first method is to select our data, choose the Quick Analysis button, and go to the Tables tab, and choose the first option. As you can see, some automatic formatting may take place, but we can always get rid of this. Whenever a table is selected, the Tables Tools appears above the Design tab in the ribbon. The Table Styles has a drop-down menu that allows us to select or deselect whatever table format we wish. The first option is always No Formatting. The Table Tools will always appear if the table is selected. The second option to create a table in Excel is to go to the Insert tab and choose Table. The Create Table window appears and asks us where our data range is for our table. All we need to do is select our data, and if our data has headers, make sure this checkbox is ticked, and click OK. And again, the table appears, and again, some formatting may take place. We can choose to get rid of all our formatting, or if we want, apply a format style that suits our table or spreadsheet. The first thing you notice whenever a table is created in Excel are these drop-down buttons that appear on the headers. Each drop-down menu has two sections. The first section is based around sorting our data, and the second section is based on filtering. We'll start with sorting first. There are three methods to sort and filter data. We can either use the drop-down buttons held within the headers, the Sort and Filter button in the Home tab on the ribbon, or we can choose the Data tab and go to the Sort and Filter section there. As we're using tables, we'll stick with the drop-down buttons. The easiest type of sort to achieve, and the one most commonly used, is the Sort A to Z. This icon can be a little misleading, as it does suggest that the only type of data that can be organized is alphabetical, but this isn't the case. If we move to the drop-down menu in Date of Birth and choose the same icon, we see it's changed to Sort Oldest to Newest, and the same thing happens when we go to the hourly rate. Sort Smallest to Largest. So this type of sort organizes any data that can be arranged by size or alphabetically. So clicking on Sort A to Z in the drop-down button in the Employee column rearranges all our employee names alphabetically. In addition to this, all associated data is also updated within the table. We can always see whenever data has been sorted. Whenever a sort is applied, a tiny arrow appears embedded within the drop-down box button. If we move to the date of birth drop-down box and apply the same type of sort, the arrow has disappeared from the employee button but has reappeared here in the date of birth. We can also reverse this type of sort by choosing the icon below it. So where we have sort oldest to newest in the date of birth, we can sort by newest to oldest. Or we can sort by in reverse alphabetical order. And again, whenever these sorts are applied, we can always see which data has been sorted, and the remaining data is always consistently updated across the table. So those are the two most basic and most commonly used sort functions for a table of records or a spreadsheet. But what if we need something more complicated? Let's imagine that Blue Lake Services has hundreds of employees. Some of those employees may even have the same name, the same date of birth, the same start date, the same hourly rate, or the same contract type. Then we may need to do a custom sort to define our data more efficiently. How we do this is by clicking on any of the drop-down buttons and going to Sort by Colour in the menu. Go to Custom Sort and the sort window opens. Right now our sort is based on the employees, the values held within the employees column, and the order of the sort is from Z to A. We can change this to date of birth, sort on the values held in the date of birth column, and sort by newest to oldest. We can also sort by the cell colour, the font colour, or the cell icon. This only really applies if we've applied any conditional formatting, as we have here and here. We'll stick with values for now. We can also add a further level to the sort by clicking on Add Level here at the top left. We can then sort by another column of data, so we can go by the start date, sort by the values, and sort by oldest to newest. We can add a further column and sort by any column of data we have available to us in our table of records. And then click OK. As you can see, our data changes to reflect these new sort values. As our data range is quite small, we won't see that much change. But in a table of hundreds of records, this can become a significant tool to help define the data we need to find. As mentioned before, we can always see which columns have been sorted by the fact they had the small arrow embedded within the button. As we just did a custom sort, we can see that the date of birth, the start date, and the contract type all have the embedded arrow. Filtering data is slightly different to sorting. When we sort our data, all we're really doing is rearranging the data in the spreadsheet or the table of records to be more easily viewed. When we filter data, what we're really doing is refining the data we wish to see, so some rows get hidden. To filter data, we have three options. We can use the filter option, which is the second part of the drop-down menu. We can use the sort and filter button in the home tab on the ribbon, or we can use the data tab and the sort and filter function that's held there. As we're working with tables of records, we'll stick to using the filter options available within the drop-down menus, but all of these options and methods are available in the other areas I showed you previously. The first thing that becomes apparent when we use one of these drop-down filters is the filter type changes depending on the data type held within the column. So in the case of employee names, which is text data, we have text filters. And we also have further options when we mouse over this area. If we go to date of birth, we have date filters, and our options appear here on the right. When we go to the hourly rate, which is numeric or currency data, we have number filters, and our options appear here. We'll return to the filter types in just a moment. Firstly, the most easiest way of using filters is clicking on the drop-down button and selecting or deselecting particular data ranges. If we click OK, the ranges disappear, but they haven't vanished. Again, much like when we sorted, a small icon is embedded within the button. In this case, it's the filter icon. If we click on this button again, we can always return our data ranges back to where they were. We can also choose to select or deselect all. And our data reappears. As no filtering has taken place, the icon that was embedded in the button has also disappeared. This applies for any type of data we wish. We can either search for the data specifically by using the search window here, or we can select and deselect individually or collectively. Where filters really become useful is in their ability to distill down data to only show that which we wish to see, and we can do this with a variety of different methods. Firstly, let's remove any employee whose name begins with S. So we'll just uncheck these two boxes here, and our table updates. Next, we'll only show those employees who were born after 1992. So again, we drop down the box, go down to the date filters, and go to after, and is after is selected, but we have other logical operators here. So we can have equal to, does not equal, is after or equal to, or is before. We want is after. And again, our table updates. Lastly, we'll only show those employees who have a contract type that's full-time. And our data is distilled down to one record. To bring back our data, all we need to do is get rid of our filters. We can either do this collectively or singly. If we wish to do this singly, all we need to do is open up the filter box and go to Clear Filter. This will clear the filter from the date of birth column only. We can do the same thing with the contract type and clear this filter. And then lastly, our last filter, the employee name, we set this to clear too, and our data returns. I'm just going to reapply the filters to show how the filters can be removed collectively. We're back down to our one record within our table. To get rid of all the filters applied, select the headers where the filter boxes are contained and just click the filter button, which is already highlighted here at the top of the ribbon. As you can see, the boxes are removed from the headers and the filters are gone. In the final section of this module, we'll be looking at subtotaling. Subtotaling is a little like sorting and filtering in that it has the best of both functions. The important thing to remember when subtotaling is it cannot be done with a table of records. To apply our subtotaling, we first need to convert our table of records to a normal range. To do this, select the table and go to the Table Tools above the Design tab in the ribbon. Then choose Convert to Range here on the left. Excel asks us if we wish to convert our table to a normal range. Just click Yes. As you can see, our headers now no longer have the sort and filter buttons applied, and no sort and filters are now applied to the table. Now that our table has been converted back to a normal range, we can now begin to apply the subtotal. Firstly, we need to sort one of our columns. We'll choose the contract type. Remember, Excel allows us a few different methods to perform the same task. So to sort this column, we may either right-click and choose Sort from the menu, choose Sort and Filter from the Home tab, or go to the Data tab and choose the sort from there. A simple A to Z sort is all that's required. As you can see, our contract type is now sorted alphabetically into three areas: the full-time, the part-time, and the temporary. We can now apply our subtotal. The subtotal is held in the Data tab here on the right. Once we click Subtotal, the subtotal window opens with its three parameters. The first parameter asks for which column to apply the subtotal. The second parameter asks for which function to use within the subtotal. As there are a variety of data types that can be used, there's a variety of functions. We'll stick with count for our example. And lastly, where we would like to view our subtotal. As we're using contract type, it makes sense to keep the contract type view there. Once we're ready, we click OK. Once the subtotal is applied, we can see the changes straight away. Firstly, it adds a subcount to each type within the contract type. So with 3 full-time contracts, we have 3 for our subcount here, the same for the part-time and the same for the temporary. It also gives us a grand total, or a grand count, in this case 8. So while we have a subcount offering how many of each different type we have, we also include the grand total. What makes a subtotal quite useful is how it's viewed. We have 3 separate tabs here in the top left, and each offer an expanded or a contracted view based on which one is selected. The first view, for example, gives us just the grand total of how many contract types there are available. The second view gives us the subcount of each contract type, including the grand total. And the third view gives us a completely expanded view, including the data held within it. This gives us the best of both worlds when it comes to sorting and filtering data. Within each view, there is also the plus and minus buttons, which allow us to expand and contract each view based on what we wish to see, to offer full versatility within the subtotal function. In the Module 12 exercise folder, you'll find a file called Blue Lake Services Exercise. Open this folder and perform the following functions. Firstly, convert our range of data to a table of records. Secondly, apply a normal A to Z sort to the employee range. And lastly, filter out any row whose employee number is above 120. So let's start by converting our data to a table of records. First, we select our data, including the headers, and we can either use the Quick Analysis button, select Tables, and choose the first option, or go to the Insert tab on the ribbon and select Table from there. Confirm that our data range is correct, check that our table has headers, and click OK. The next task was to rearrange our data into alphabetical order. We can do this by clicking on the drop-down button and selecting Sort A to Z, or selecting a cell within the range, remaining in the Home tab, and use the Sort A to Z function on the right and select Sort A to Z here, or go to the Data tab and select Sort A to Z here. The table updates perfectly. The last task is to filter out any employee whose employee number is above 120. To do this, we have to create a custom filter. We can do this by either using the Advanced option here in the ribbon, or go to the drop-down button, choose Text Filters, and create a custom filter. We wish to show any employee whose number is less than a given value, in this case 120. And we click OK. Only 4 employees remain, so the filter has clearly worked, and we also know a filter has been applied because the filter icon is embedded here in the button. The same applies for the sort here in the employee range. So in summary, any data in Excel can be converted to a table of records. Using tables allows for greater control and refinement of the information being stored. The subtotaling function offers an efficient method of viewing this data, but remember, subtotaling doesn't work within a table of records. It only works within a normal range of data. Finally, if using formulas rely on cell referencing. The sort and filter functions can sometimes move these cell references and give incorrect values or stop working altogether. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next module.